A few other milestones to reach. We need good audio communication hard-lined through the umbilical where Dragon is currently docked on the other side of that hatch, providing now power, just making sure those hard-line communications are intact. Working through that as we count down towards the milestones of opening that hatch.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and in section 1 of 4.400, the tablet state of charge are 66 for Doug's and 32 for mine.
Copy. 66 for Doug, 32 for Bob. And do we have your permission to come back on board with video now?
Yeah, go ahead and come on board. We just may have to take it down at some point, as you might imagine, but come on board.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Station Houston on 3 for Chris. Your convenience, but just an update on the comm status.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Chris, you've probably been able to tell we've run into some minor issues trying to get hardline established, so we're working that here, and we're going to be reattempting the comm checks as soon as we think we're go. I'll give you a heads up on that. And then regarding stuff, just get aheads. I was going to pass along to do the teardown from steps 3 and 4 in the approach monitoring, but I just saw it go gray, so have you done that already?
Hold on just 1 second. Which one was that? Maybe I fat fingered the wrong procedure.
Yeah, no, it's subtle. So it's in the execution note for Dragon approach monitoring, as we were monitoring Dragon earlier in the day. Down in the execution note are the teardown steps.
I'm here in the cupola right now. I'll take care of it. It's not gray, but momentarily will be.
Sounds good. And I'm also hearing on that we have done on the ground steps 1 through 4, so it's just 5 and 6 left for you in that teardown procedure.
Copy that. Josh, on 3, steps 5 and 6 are complete in the teardown.
Copy, Chris. Thanks for that. And just about to hit the button and reattempt the hardline checks with Dragon.
Okay, copy.
Endeavor, it's Houston calling via hardline voice check. How do you read?
Say again.
And station standby, Endeavor. This is a call for Endeavor via hardline voice check. How do you read?
Houston, Endeavor, completely unreadable. It's skipping pretty badly.
And Endeavor, it's Houston on Dragon to ground. We heard your reply loud and clear. Understand we're still broken. We're working it. Thanks for the patience.
We got you, Josh. That's exactly the case. Thanks.
Dragon FM voice check. How to read me? Counting 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5.
And station on 2 for Anatoly. Anatoly, we're hearing you loud and clear in Houston. We seem to have an issue still with COM2 Dragon, so we'll just have you stand by. We'll let you know when we're ready to retry. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, call me on space to ground 1, please.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground for a timeline tag up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Anna, we're managing the collection of the used water bottles and other items as well as our meal, and just looking to understand a little bit better how closely we're to hatch opening or another timeline milestone. We're kind of running to the end of the tablet here with meal 5 that started about, 25 minutes ago or so, and so just wanting to understand how much time we've got in front of us.
In Dragon SpaceX, we estimate we are about an hour to Dragon hatch opening.
Copy that, Anna. Thanks for those words. It just helps us manage getting things done. And looks like you guys are on board. Welcome aboard, I guess, the integrated space station now, huh?
Indeed. Thank you so much. We're excited to be here.
Endeavour, Houston calling over hardline for a voice check. How do you read us now?
Houston or station from Endeavour. I'm not sure the location of that last call, but still quite a bit of skipping and unreadable.
And Endeavour, it's Houston, loud and clear on Dragon to ground. We heard your response, so we're in the same situation. We're hearing you, you're not hearing us. We have one more troubleshooting item that we're going to put in work now, so we'll give that a try and then maybe call it for the day. We'll let you know.
Endeavour copies. Thanks, Houston.
Endeavor Houston calling via hardline for a final voice check. Do you have us now?
Houston, Dragon on the big loop, that was an improvement, but it's still completely unreadable.
And Endeavor Houston on Dragon to ground 1, we're still hearing you 5x5. Understand it was slightly improved. Were you able to read me at all, or is it unuseful?
Yeah, it was a slight improvement, but it's still unintelligible, almost every word. There was maybe one word that you could have sort of figured out, but that was about it.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. First time, obviously, and we think we're running into some interference issues, but we'll continue to take a look.
We copy, thanks.
Right now, we don't have a reason to use those. We'll only be making small attitude corrections with the service section Dracos. And you can see the service section actually pretty clearly here too. There's a black portion and a white portion sort of separated by a fin. The black portion is solar panels, solar cells that'll charge Dragon's batteries, and the bottom side, the white portion, is actually a thermal radiator that's used to keep the spacecraft nice and cool. Of course, the avionics and the cabin, making sure that Bob and Doug are comfortable inside.
It looks like we're getting a shadow cast. We are just 60 meters away, continuing to close in, just about 40 meters to go until we're at that hold point. Should get there in just over 2 minutes. Meanwhile, teams in Hawthorne and in Houston doing their internal go, no go for docking. They're going to get all the teams polled. Once everyone's go, we'll be able to give Dragon the final go-ahead for the vehicle to autonomously fly in and dock with the International Space Station. Should be coming up on waypoint 2 arrival in just about 1 minute, 45 seconds. At this point, it'll be 20 meters away from that docking port. The International Docking Adapter number 2 attached to pressurized mating adapter number 2 at the very forward end of the Harmony module.
Right there on the, right around the center, you can see the forward hatch. It's got a window in it. You can see a couple of handles, and there's some features that look sort of bronze-ish. Those are the pedals that we were talking about earlier as part of the soft capture system. So pretty wild, too, to see. We're so close that we're getting shadows from the station on Dragon. Wow.
And we're getting these views of Dragon's approach from 2 cameras that are right next to that docking adapter. And the movement's a little jarring at times. These cameras are being commanded by a person at the Cronus console in Mission Control Houston, and they send some very basic function commands to the camera, which it then executes automatically. And so they're continuing to follow Dragon in, so we do thank them for their diligence to give us these views of this historic moment as we are just less than 30 meters away from docking.
Right above the NASA meatball logo, you can see three of the service section Draco thrusters.
That's right, 12 in all. So the 4 of those clusters spread around the vehicle, used for a lot of the attitude control and any small translational maneuvers like we just watched Bob and Doug execute with their second manual flight test.
Yeah, and actually oriented in a way too where if you were to lose some of those thrusters, you still have redundancy and control in those axes. That's part of the reason why they're sort of at the angles that they are.
All right, so we should be getting to waypoint 2 right now. And so it looks like we do have that hold.
Dragon SpaceX on Big Loop. The ground is go for approach 2. We will be enabling the resume shortly. As a reminder, ensure your visors are closed prior to Dragon's departure from the waypoint. And once Dragon is inside the crew hands-off point, retreat and breakout are not permitted. And for your awareness, we have sunset in a little less than 8.5 minutes.
Dragon copies all on the Big Loop. Go for docking.
So Doug on the spacecraft confirming their go for docking. They're going to put down their visors. Got some instructions there about the crew hands-off point that we had talked about earlier. That's a point where we don't want the crew issuing any commands to the vehicle. It's about just about 2 meters away from the docking adapter. I believe the number is about 1.7 meters.
Station Houston on the Big Loop. Houston and station are now go for docking. Chris, you can monitor per steps 3 and 4. 3 and 4 in 1.104 Crew Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
Copy steps 3 and 4.
Next Dragon on the Big Loop. Our visors are down.
Copy, visors down.
With the crew confirming their visors down, we should see the final approach resume.
Station Dragon on the Big Loop. We are inbound from approach 2.
Copy, inbound.
Station copy.
And we're going to be racing that sunset. The approach has resumed. Dragon closing in. We're inside 20 meters. And yeah, that crew hands-off point should come up in about 3 minutes or so, right before we get that final docking. It comes about 20 seconds prior, or just about 2 meters away from the station still. And that's just the crew not issuing any abort commands. At that point, it would be too late. And so any aborts would be executed automatically by Dragon itself. So we're closing in at less than 1/10 of a meter per second at this point.
You can see the service section Draco is just doing all these very small, minor attitude corrections. Really, the autonomous docking system at work, making sure that the vestibule and the soft capture system is lined up with IDA2. It's the International Docking Adapter. You can see much more clearly there the hinge mechanism for the nose cone. Those 4 black circles are the forward bulkhead Dracos, not to be used at this time. And then, of course, the pedals of the soft capture system. Wow.
Dragon on the big loop, we're inside 10 meters. We cannot make out the docking target, but we do see the outline.
We copy and concur, 10 meters.
Right, we're less than 10 meters away. Again, we're closing at that rate of less than 1/10 of a meter per second. We should be just about 1 minute 45 seconds away from docking.
There is a center line camera right in that middle, so that you can see where the forward hatch is, and right in the middle of that there's a window and there's a center line camera that is aligned with the center of the vehicle and the center of the docking mechanism. So that is what the autonomous docking system is using to line up with sort of a cross hatch, cross target on the docking port. Again, the forward docking port on PMA2, or the pressurized mating adapter.
And we are just 5 meters away. Again, we're racing that sunset. This Dragon continues to close, 4 meters to go.
Those shadows of the space station on the vehicle. Yeah, you can actually see the centerline camera pretty clearly there, sort of with the contrast of the sun right now.
3 meters to go. Two meters. We are inside the hands-off point, the chop, the crew hands-off point. 1 meter to go. Soft capture complete.
Dragon is soft capture confirmed. Stand by for retraction and docking.
Standing by.
And we just heard it, soft capture. We have docking, that coming at 7:16 a.m. Pacific time, with the station and Dragon flying 262 statute miles right over the border between northern China and Mongolia.
You saw a little bit of motion there of Dragon. That was that relative motion that the soft capture system is damping out. Once that motion is clear, then the soft capture system will be retracted, and Dragon will go for hard capture.
Again, if just now tuning in, that soft capture, that docking
This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just joining us, you're getting a look inside the Crew Dragon. That was Bob Bankhead seated on the right side, the pilot seat, or the Joint Operations Mission Commander seat for Demo 2. He and Doug Hurley, the commander of the spacecraft, just preparing the inside, putting away some trash. They just doffed their suits, and right now just waiting for the pressure to equalize between the International Space Station and Bob and Doug. Just two hatches, really, separating them from the inside of the orbiting complex. Aboard International Space Station, Commander Chris Cassidy has been outfitting Node 2. It's the first node. Once you cross over some of the hatchways, there it is. You can see some of the cameras positioned around to capture the crew coming in to the International Space Station. Much of that work completed at this point. Really, at this point, just waiting for good leak checks between Station and Dragon.
Station Huntsville, Space to Ground 3 for Chris on the ISS experience.
Right on 3.
Hey Chris, we're not seeing good connection between the SSC-25 and the camera. We're coming up on a handover, but they're looking for a reboot of SSC-25.
Reboot 25, copy.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground for inventory.
I am here and ready to copy.
Okay, Anna, we'll start with location 9 from bag 203. Remove 3 water bottles.
Copy. 3 bottles removed from bag 203.
Good read back from location 10. We removed bottles from each of bag 207, 208, so 6 water bottles in total.
And Dragon SpaceX, you were pretty broken on that call, but I think I copied 3 bottles from each bag 207 and 208. Is that correct?
That is a good read back, Anna.
I copy.
Okay. For location 11, 1 dinner from bag 317, 1 breakfast from bag 315, and 1 lunch from bag 316.
Yeah, there are several.
I copy 1 dinner from 317, 1 breakfast from 315, and 1 lunch from 316.
Folks are interested, but they're all, everything that was taken has been sent down.
That's a good read back. And location 12, 1 dinner from bag 321, 1 breakfast from bag 319, and 1 lunch from bag 320.
I copy 1 dinner from 321, 1 breakfast from 319, 1 lunch from 310. And am I correct to conclude all of this includes your consumption from the lunch that you just completed?
That's correct, Anna. We've finished eating, and the lunch we just completed is a good complete list of what I've read down to you so far. The only thing we have remaining is the flush of the waste system here, and we'll do that with a water bottle and report when we do that a little bit later.
Copy. That sounds like a perfect plan. Thank you so much.
Okay, with that, that's the extent of our inventory. All else is per the packing plan.
Copy all else from per the packing plan.
This is Mission Control Houston. You've seen Chris Cassidy, International Space Station Commander, do much of the setup, but he does have 2 crew members on board, both Russian cosmonauts. Next to him right now is Ivan Wagner, rookie space flyer that was on the same Soyuz spacecraft that Chris Cassidy launched on from the Baikonur Cosmodrome just a little more than a month ago. Also on board is Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Ivanishin. This is Mission Control Houston. We are coming up on almost 2 hours since the Crew Dragon made contact and was captured by at the International Space Station's forward International Docking Adapter. That happened at 9:16 a.m. Central, 10:16 a.m. Eastern. Still working through some of those milestones, equalizing the pressure between Dragon and International Space Station, verifying some of the communications, and of course you see Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley inside, continuing to prepare the inside of their vessel before they make their way inside the orbiting complex.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. Do you mind taking the cameras down for just a few minutes here?
We will put that in work and let you know when it's done.
This is Mission Control Houston. You heard the call from Bob Behnken, Joint Operations Mission Commander of the Demo 2 mission, taking down some of those video feeds. We're still waiting for some of those milestones to pass before actually opening the hatch. The Dragon crew continuing to get themselves ready before opening the hatch. Chris Cassidy on the other side, just preparing some of the camera views, making sure everything's set there, done even a little bit ahead of time. We do have confirmation that there is a good data connection path between Dragon and the International Space Station. Some of those checks underway next. Coming up on 2 hours since docking at 9:16 a.m. Central, 10:16 a.m. Eastern.
Space Station on 3. The SSC's been rebooted. Any success?
Hey, Chris, we see good connection between the SSC and the camera, and we're just performing the calibration now. We'll start recording shortly. Thanks for your help.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to help.
Dragon SpaceX, we have gone exterior with the cameras.
Dragon copy, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, you're getting a look at the inside of the International Space Station. That's NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, commander of Expedition 63. Continuing to get some of those cameras configured for hatch opening. Many milestones already passed after docking at 9:16 a.m. Central, almost 2 hours ago at this point. At the time of docking, the International Space Station was on Russian thrusters. After contact and capture, was moved over to control moment gyro, stabilization and attitude control. Now back to its standard configuration of thrusters and control moment gyros. After an umbilical connecting Dragon to the International Space Station was established, we did get confirmation of good power flowing from the International Space Station to Dragon. Dragon now relying on station power. We did get confirmation of good data transmission. And of course, the teams here on the ground, both here in Houston and in Hawthorne, troubleshooting some of the communication to make sure that is ready to go prior to hatch opening. Pressurization between International Space Station and Dragon brought up to the same pressure, 14.7, the same we would find here on Earth. Leak checks are next to confirm the pressure is stabilized between the two vehicles. You see the hatch just on the other side of Chris Cassidy there. That's the hatch to the pressurized mating adapter. There's two more hatches once you go down that hatchway. One is to the International Docking Adapter, and the other is the hatch of Dragon itself.
SpaceX Dragon with a couple of questions.
I am here and ready to copy.
Hey, Anna. We show about an hour and 11 minutes since we started drying the suits, just to let you know that. And then the other thing is we can put 4.400 Section 2 in work if you think we have some time before we get the hatch open.
We copy. You are go to stop drying your suits and turn off that suit fan at this time. Let me get you words on that waste system flush.
Copy. We'll shut the suit fan off now.
In Dragon SpaceX, we are about a half hour prior to hatch open, so you are go to do that waste system flush if that sounds good to you at this time.
Okay, we may give it a few minutes. If it's going to be 30 minutes until hatch opening, we may want to use it just one more time. So yeah, we may hold off for another 10 minutes or so. But let us know if anything changes. Otherwise, we'll do it then.
Totally reasonable. Sounds like a good plan. Thanks.
And Dragon, Houston on Dragon 2 ground, we're still working comm issues. We're going to take down the big loop now. We'll maintain you on Dragon to ground. We'll call you when we have hardline back in place.
Stand by 1 second. Chris.
Dragon copies, Houston. Thanks.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry, I was talking to Dragon.
Yeah, no problem. Hey, I'm just looking ahead at the PAO event, and I know it says video through the node 2 and space to ground 2 up and down. It would only take me about 1 minute to change back over to the encoder and go do comm the normal way that we do PAO events, if that's something that's preferred. It really is super fast, and I can get you that way in that config real quick if you need it. Later.
Copy, Chris. Yeah, copy. Thanks for that. We'll offer it up, and I'll let you know if we want to go that way.
Copy. Obviously not urgent or important, just throwing it out there.
Station Houston on 3 for Chris, comm config.
Go ahead.
We just wanted to clarify from your last comments. We show it as being in the standard config, whereby you're going to be coming down over the camcorder HD mic, and we'll be going up over space to ground 2, and that's what we're intending. Did you maybe just? We might have missed your intent in your previous remarks. Is that what you had in mind?
No, I had, like we do all other PAO events, we talk, we hold the handheld microphone that is going through the clip-on mic transmitter to the clip-on, through the camera, and then the audio comes down through the encoder. That's how we typically do PAO events. So I could go back to that config if you need, super fast, or if you want to do it this way where we're talking on space to ground 2, that's fine too. I don't care. Just throwing it out there because it's different than we normally do PAO events.
Standby.
And just to be clear, with the configuring now is the Node 2 camera is not connected to the encoder, as you probably know. So all I would do is just plug the cable back into the encoder and switch back over to the nominal Node 2 camcorder.
And Chris, that is clear. The camera needs to be plugged into the encoder. So what you're saying is what we need. We don't know where it got swapped up, but the camera should definitely be plugged into the encoder, and audio is coming down via that encoder.
Okay, so yeah, we'll just use it on the, I guess what I was thinking is going back to one without a battery and not be dependent on the battery, and going back over to the nominal cable, which includes power. I just get a little leery about relying on these batteries.
Copy. We have Photo TV online, so we're talking to them on the phone right now. Standby one. Station Houston on 3 for Chris. Microphone and the free float camera both connected to the encoder. Does that clear it up?
Okay, copy all. You want the free float camera, and we'll use the handheld microphone through the ATU. Copy all. No problem. I think I'm not communicating. No pun intended. But I think we're in a good config now, and I won't swap over to the nominal Node 2 camera.
Connected a new cable.
Down by Chris. Station Houston on 3, Chris. If you're still there, we think we still have it backwards. So I see you look. Yeah, I see in the video now. So we still have PAO on the line. Sorry for the confusion, but I think this much is clear. This morning, we moved cameras, we swapped the cameras that were connected to the encoder. What we want now, we're getting video from the free float camera through the encoder, so that's good. We're seeing it right now. What we need, just relaying here, is your lapel mic. That has to go through that new free float camera, so that your mic connects to the free float camera, and then that audio comes down through the encoder. Does that make sense?
That's the config it's in right now, and that's all perfect. The only benefit, I guess, I didn't initially make it clear is if I switch back to the normal cable and the normal camera, we're not dependent on a battery power on the camera. I just am worried that throughout this whole event, we're gonna that all of a sudden the battery's gonna go out. I go back to the normal.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. Now report complete with 4.012.
The benefit to this free flow camera is
complete with 4.012.
Make it all the way into the Dragon, which I don't think we could do with the other cable. So what my thought was, after we do all of the ingress stuff and we switch gears to the PAO ceremony when we're standing right in front of the hatch, we could have actual power to the camera. But it's really no big deal. What I'll do is I have got a couple batteries on standby, and I'll just make sure there's a fresh battery right before we start that PAO event.
Okay, Chris, sorry it took so long, but I'm 100% with you, and copy 100% on the battery concern. The word we're getting here is we would like to run it in the config that it's in right now. We copy all on the battery config. Great idea to have a few spares nearby, but we think it's going to last throughout the whole event.
Okay, copy all.
And Station Houston on 3 for Chris. With that out of the way, you have a go when able for your 1615 activity. 1615, that's your go for steps 3 and 4 in 2.102 Crew Dragon ISS arrival.
Okay, 1615 activity, inward.
Endeavour, Houston calling on hardline for a voice check. Endeavour, Houston calling via hardline for a voice check.
Loud and clear, how was?
Hey, Endeavour, Houston, we have you loud and clear on hardline. Great news.
Well, congrats. Sounds like we got it at least somewhat sorted out.
Affirmative, concur. We think we might have found interference between C2V2 and the hardline system, but we're going to keep it here for now and proceed down the timeline.
Never copies.
Houston on 3, hey, can you back me up on the PDT?
Will do, we're checking. Station Houston on 2. Chris, TPT is good. You're good to continue.
Copy, thanks.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at the inside of the International Space Station. What you were hearing before were just some of the audio and video checks, just making sure that everything's synced up so that we get the best views and the best audio possible for when Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley come through that hatch. We're working towards the hatch opening now. You can see Chris Cassidy down the pressurized mating adapter. That hatch will open up to the international docking adapter. On the other side is the Dragon hatch. Cassidy working through those procedures after pressure equalization was complete. Now expecting around the order of 10 to 15 minutes, maybe, until we finally get that hatch open. So we'll stand by, keep those views coming from the inside of the International Space Station to welcome Bob and Doug aboard. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at the live view of the inside of the International Space Station Flight Control Room. The team here, Orbit 2 team, led by Flight Director Scoville, is working through the intricate process of making sure everything is ready to open the hatch and welcome Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the International Space Station. It's been a journey so far to get to this point. More than 2 hours ago, made contact and capture with the International Space Station was the Dragon vehicle, the Crew Dragon vehicle, with Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard, 9:16 a.m. Central, 10:16 a.m. Eastern.
Dragon FM voice check. How do you read me? Counting. 1, 2, 1,
30-minute
1,
timer
2,
that you gave
2,
us a little
1,
bit
2,
earlier.
3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 5.
Here, and then give you go to come back on board.
In Dragon SpaceX, you were pretty broken in that previous call.
Here's some stations with ground 2. I don't hear Dragon.
I think you're being summoned by the Russian crew. In Dragon SpaceX, I was told to proceed with you. Can you please repeat your last?
Yeah, Anna, just wanted to double check with you to make sure you had copied our last and that we were still good on that estimated timer that you gave us for 30 minutes. It looks like we've got about 10 minutes left. So we'd like to pick up in section 2 of 4.400.
Checking.
This is Mission Control Houston. Chris Cassidy opens the hatch to the International Docking Adapter, 11:37 a.m. Central Time. Station and Dragon flying together, 267 statute miles over the South Pacific. There's a view from the camera at the forward end of Dragon.
20 minutes until Dragon hatch open, and the APAS hatch was just opened.
Again, 11:37 a.m. Central. The hatch to the International Docking Adapter was open. You see Chris Cassidy there poking his head in. That's the camera at the forward end of the Dragon. Now only one hatch separating Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley from Chris Cassidy, who you're seeing here from those Dragon views. Expected time to open that hatch is about 20 minutes from now. We'll report that time to you and expect to do a welcome ceremony at 12:15 a.m. Central Time, 1:15 p.m. Eastern. That'll welcome Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the International Space Station as part of the Expedition 63 crew. We'll get to hear some words from them and have some VIPs here in Mission Control Houston to provide words to the teams that oversaw the entire mission and the crew aboard the International Space Station.
Station Houston, we copy the hatch open. No condensation. Thanks.
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground, comm check.
Dragon to ground, how us?
A little choppy, how me?
You are loud and clear. We'll put section 2 of 4.400 in work.
We copy all. Thank you. And please give Anatoly a call on Big Loop.
Okay, we'll call Anatoly on the Big Loop, and I'd also like to report 2 bottles of water consumed from location 9, bag 204.
Location 9, bag 204, and to confirm that was for the waste system flush.
1 for the waste system.
Chris Cassidy, removing that target from the APAS hatch docking interface.
Dragon, comm check on the big loop for Anatoly from Endeavour.
Dragon FM, voice check. How do you read me? Counting 1 to 1, 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5.
Anatoly, Endeavour has you loud and clear. How copy?
Copy, Houston. They have me loud and clear.
Good to hear your voice.
Dragon FM, how do you read me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. See you soon. Turning over to Houston.
And all players from Houston, that completes the comm checks. Thank you.
Copy.
Okay.
This is Mission Control Houston. Those comm checks within the International Space Station between the Dragon crew, Chris Cassidy, and on the other side of the International Space Station, the Russian segment, Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Ivanishin, completing those voice checks. You can see Cassidy continuing to outfit the hatch, just clearing the space and providing some padding and removing that docking target from the APAS hatch.
Thanks, Dragon. Go ahead and Dragon to ground.
So I copy that the waste system flush is in work and 2 more bags were consumed from location 9, bag 204, and that includes the water used for the waste system flush. Is that all correct?
From bag 204, one of which Bob is in the process of consuming, and the other will be for the waste flush. That is correct.
Perfect. Thanks for clarifying. And secondly, do we have your permission to come back on board with video?
Negative. We're going to need about 2 minutes. We're just wrapping up ops here right now.
Copy. 2 more minutes. We will await your confirmation.
Thank you.
Still getting views from the infrared camera that's located right at the center of the Dragon hatch, looking at Chris Cassidy, International Space Station Commander, outfitting that hatch, getting ready for Bob and Doug to arrive. You're hearing communications over Dragon to ground. That was Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley on the other side of that hatch, inside the crew Dragon vehicle, finishing up their operations on the inside for that hatch opening, expected in about 10 to 15 minutes. Again, it's been a process to get to this point. Just about 2.5 hours ago, docking to the International Space Station was Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the first commercial American vehicle to dock to the International Space Station with crew aboard. Again, we're expecting about 10 to 15 minutes to open up that hatch One more hatch separating Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley from the inside of the International Space Station. Still looking at Cassidy doing some of the prep work for that hatch. We'll get some great views that Cassidy set up over the past few hours to capture this historic moment today. Be sure to stay tuned in at 12:15 p.m. Central Time, 1:15 p.m. Eastern. We'll start a welcome ceremony officially welcoming Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the International Space Station to join the Expedition 63 crew.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground.
Go ahead.
Anna, you're clear to come on board.
Copy. Clear to come on board, and thanks for your patience with the comm. We are in an orientation that's creating some blockage to receive your comm on Dragon to ground.
Yeah, we figured that was it. No problem. That's part of the deal.
Chris Cassidy giving a wave, eagerly awaiting Bob and Doug to come aboard. Just behind him, you see Anatoly Ivanishin and Ivan Wagner, Russian cosmonauts of Expedition 63 standing by. We'll be able to come aboard Dragon here in a sec, get some views from the crew Dragon. We're in a short handover of those communications from the International Space Station. Video and audio should be regaining them momentarily. Anatoly Ivanishin in the foreground there. Chris Cassidy continuing the prep work for opening up the hatch there. Again, the pressurized mating adapter hatch you see there in the foreground is open. The APAS hatch to the International Docking Adapter is open. Just one more, and that's the hatch of Dragon, the Crew Dragon vehicle.
Houston Station, Space to Ground 2, station is ready for Dragon hatch equalization.
Station Houston copies. Dragon call ready when you're able.
Houston, Dragon, go ahead.
And Dragon, Houston, just looking to confirm that you're ready for hatch equalization.
We are ready as long as SpaceX is ready.
Okay, Station and Endeavour, stand by for equalization. We're putting it in work. Expected equalization time, 4 minutes.
Station copies.
Endeavour copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're continuing to equalize the pressure of that last hatch. Behind that hatch is Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley aboard the Crew Dragon spacecraft. We are moments away from opening the hatch and welcoming them aboard the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just tuning in, we are standing by for confirmation of the hatch opening between the International Space Station and the Crew Dragon. There's the hatch to the Crew Dragon. Seeing Doug Hurley through the glass on the other side. And there's Bob Behnken. Still equalizing that pressure between Crew Dragon and International Space Station, just moments away.
Dragon SpaceX on Big Loop. You are go for hatch opening per the decal, followed by the remaining actions in your procedure 4.400.
Dragon copies, go for hatch opening and remaining steps in 4.400.
And with that, the hatch is open 12:02 p.m. Central Time, 1:02 p.m. Eastern. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley opened the hatch to the International Space Station after launching from American soil on a U.S. vehicle for the first time in 9 years, the first time ever for a commercially built spacecraft. If you're just tuning in, the hatches are open between Dragon and the International Space Station. International Space Station Commander Chris Cassidy now talking with Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken aboard the Crew Dragon spacecraft. That hatch opened at 12:02 p.m. Central, 1:02 p.m. Eastern.
SpaceX Dragon on the Big Loop. The hatch is open in 5.5, 4.400. How copy?
I copy. Hatch is open. Great to hear. Thanks.
And SpaceX Dragon in 5.9, we're going to exit out of 4.400 and transition to 2.102 Crew Dragon ISS arrival through the hatch opening.
I copy. With that, I understand you are complete with 4.400 and will follow along with you as you transition to the ISS procedure.
This is Mission Control Houston. The crew of Demo 2 just performing a few closeout duties. The hatches are open. They were open 12:02 p.m. Central Time. We're moments away from the board Demo 2 to enter the International Space Station. It'll be the first time that Americans will enter the International Space Station on a rocket launched from U.S. soil, built by an American company. The first time ever Americans will enter from a commercially built spacecraft.
Station Houston on Space Ground 2 for Chris. When you're able, we're just looking for a quick voice check on the mic.
Station Space Ground 2, go ahead.
Chris, we were hoping we could voice check the mic just before starting the PAO event.
Okay, copy that.
Houston Dragon on the big loop, and step 6.1 of 2.102 IMV duct installation is complete. Go for IMV fan activation.
Houston copies, go for IMV fan activation, that's in work.
If you're just tuning in, you're getting a live look.
Station Houston on two things. Chris, we did hear you over the PAO side of things. That was a good voice check. We might ask you for one more. And then for the Dragon crew, you also have a go for 6.3. That's opening the location 23 and checking for debris.
Dragon copies 6.3 in work.
If you're just tuning in, you're getting a live look. On the left of your screen is a look inside the Crew Dragon on the Demo 2 mission. On the right, the International Space Station.
Houston,
Bob Behnken.
Dragon on the big loop. We are ready for 6.4 and section 4 of the LIO instructions.
And Station, we copy. Dragon crew, you are go at 6.4.
In work.
This is Mission Control Houston. You're getting a live look at the inside of the International Space Station, losing video communication from the International Space Station. It will only be momentary. We'll have those views back to see Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley enter the International Space Station. When they do, it'll be the first time that humans will enter through this hatch for the first time in 9 years.
Dragon, so we had to I had to load the procedure from my iPad and hand it in to them, so that took a little longer.
We copy, Chris. Station Houston on 2 for Chris. When convenient, PAO requests an additional voice check through the mic. And Chris, we're not hearing you in MCC. We are apparently getting it through to PAO. Just stand by. Chris, PAO is working comm reconfig. I'll call you if we're ready for another check.
Houston and SpaceX Endeavour in 6.5 LIO cartridges sealed and installed.
SpaceX copies.
Station Houston on 2 for Chris. We wanted you to confirm that the mic is in channel 1. It needs to be in channel 1. A thought here is that it could have been bumped over to 2. And Chris, we see you trying. We're still not hearing you in MCC. We're working on it. Houston, Chris. Nothing in MCC. We see you trying. The word here is that as long as that is in channel 1, any problems past that point are on our end, so we're looking into it. We'll be right back to you. Station Houston, we're ready for another voice check through the mic. Station Houston, we have you loud and clear through the mic. Thank you.
SpaceX Dragon on the Big Loop in 7.1.
SpaceX here.
Okay, Anna, in 7.1, it appears that the AVV inner Bravo is open, as well as the PPRV ISO valve.
I copy that AVV inner Bravo appears to be open, as well as PPRV ISO valve.
Go ahead and cycle them to close if you're good with that call.
Yes, we are good with that call and appreciate the status. Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just tuning in, hatches were open at 12:02 p.m. Central Time. We are moments away from Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley entering the International Space Station. Again, this is Mission Control Houston, moments away from Bob and Doug entering the International Space Station. Shortly after they enter, we will conduct a welcome ceremony. There will be VIPs here in Mission Control Houston, Ficker 1.
Looks like they're all closed visually now. We are in 8.3 for both SpaceX and Houston. Dragon arrival configuration is complete.
SpaceX copies. All valves appear closed visually now, and arrival configuration complete. Excellent to hear.
Houston copies. And with that, Endeavour, welcome to the International Space Station. Please come aboard.
Endeavour copies with pleasure. We'll be there in a second.
We have Bob Behnken from SpaceX Demo 2 mission entering the International Space Station. Followed by Doug Hurley.
And Station Houston, we see you, and it's a great-looking photograph. So thanks for that. Stand by 1. We'll call you when we're ready for the event in the next few seconds. Got a whole bunch of very happy and grateful people making their way into MCC right now.
Demo 2 crew now aboard the International Space Station. They entered at 12:22 p.m. Central Time. The station at the time was 262 statute miles over Turkmenistan. Crew all gathered in front of the cameras at the Node 2 forward end of the International Space Station. Just behind them is the hatchway to the Crew Dragon on its Demo 2 mission. We're standing by for a welcome ceremony. We'll have VIPs here in Mission Control Houston ready to greet the crew.
And Station, we're just about ready. Stand by. All right, Station, it's Houston on Space to Ground 2. Confirm that you are ready for the event.
Houston, this station, we are ready for the event.
Copy that. And, sir, Administrator Bridenstine, welcome to MCC. Please call Station for a voice check.
Station, this is the NASA Administrator. Can you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, sir. Welcome to the space station.
Thank you, Chris. It's good to see you. And welcome to Bob and Doug. I will tell you, the whole world saw this mission, and we are so proud of everything you have done for our country and, in fact, to inspire the world.
We sure appreciate that, sir. It's obviously been our honor to be just a small part of this. We have to give credit to SpaceX, the Commercial Crew Program, and, of course, NASA. It's great to get the United States back in the crewed launch business, and we're just really glad to be on board this magnificent complex.
Well, we have some VIPs with us here, and I'm sure they have some questions that they'd like to ask you, but I have one of my own before I turn it over. And I just wanted to find out if you guys got any sleep on your way up there the last, I'd say, I got 19 hours. Did you guys get any sleep?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks in Hawthorne were asking the same question, sir, but we did get probably a good 7 hours or so opportunity for sleep, and I did succeed at sleep, and Doug did as well. So the first night is always a little bit of a challenge, but the Dragon was a slick vehicle, and we had good airflow, and so we had an excellent evening, and just excited to be back in low Earth orbit again.
Amazing. Well, one of the people that is here with us today is Senator Ted Cruz, and of course he's a huge advocate of America's space program, and he's been somebody who has helped us so much as we transition from one administration to the next administration. And the reason missions like this can have success is because of continuity of purpose. And Senator Ted Cruz was a leader on a bill called the the NASA Transition Authorization Act. And because of that, we have had a lot of political support, and we're very grateful for his leadership. Senator Cruz, would you like to say a few words?
Well, congratulations, gentlemen. The eyes of the world are upon you, and everyone is proud of you. All of America is watching you, and today and yesterday represent big, big days. We're looking at a decade since we've had American astronauts launched on an American ship from American soil. And I can tell you, I sat with my wife and kids in our living room watching on TV yesterday, and I suspect we did what just about everyone watching did, including both of you, which is held our breath as it took off. And we're glad to see you've landed safely. We're glad to see you've docked. And so let me ask you, that Dragon is an amazing vehicle. How does she handle?
It flew just like it was supposed to. It was we had a couple opportunities to take it out for a spin, so to speak, once after we got into orbit last night, and again today about 20 minutes before we docked. And my compliments to the folks back at Hawthorne and SpaceX for how well it flew. It is exactly like the simulator, and we couldn't be happier about the performance of the vehicle.
What do you guys hope to accomplish in your time on the International Space Station?
Well, while we're on board the space station, of course, with the new spacecraft, we do hope to put her through her paces, and so the good ship Endeavour is going to get a lot of checkout over the next week or two here, and hopefully we'll be able to declare her operational, and Doug and I will be able to take some burden off of Chris and his crewmates, Ivan and Anatoly, so that we can keep the space station operating at its peak possibilities. So we're looking forward to contributing any way that we can, and like I said, trying to keep space station as productive as possible.
As a country, we're in the midst of a tough week. We're seeing protests, we're seeing a lot of anger, we're seeing violence. And I have to say, this launch and y'all's docking is a powerful inspiration of what we can do when we come together, of the power of unity, the power of ingenuity. And so I guess the last question I would ask you is since you have the opportunity to address, in particular, all the young people in America, what would you tell them in terms of what we can do when we can come together?
You know, that's a great question. 9 years ago, just about exactly 9 years ago, we docked with Atlantis on STS-135, the last flight of the Space Shuttle program, a 30-year program. And folks at SpaceX, folks at NASA, the Commercial Crew Program put their heads together and worked diligently year after year, making sacrifices, working hard, and then 9 years later, American launch capability was restored, and this is just one effort that we can show for the ages in this dark time that we've had over the past several months to kind of inspire especially the young people in the United States to reach for these lofty goals and work hard and look what you can accomplish.
Thank you, gentlemen. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. We have another very special guest here that represents the Johnson Space Center. And, of course, it's my good friend from the House of Representatives, Dr. Brian Babin. And I want to be clear, he also was a big part of the NASA Transition Authorization Act, which gave us the continuity of purpose to make this happen today. So, gentlemen, here is Dr. Brian Babin from the state of Texas.
Thank you. So great to be with you guys. I was at the launch yesterday. I just want to say a huge congratulations. And, you know, there was a thunderstorm that blew in about 30 minutes or 45 minutes or so before liftoff. and it was in doubt there for a minute, but it was just an enormous achievement. I just want to say thank you for you guys. Really appreciate what you're doing for America, and the crew that's already been up there, Chris, and your two fellow Russians. To give you a great big thank you as well. I have a son who is a Navy SEAL, and I want to thank you for your service there too, Chris. And also, I would like to just see what I know you've said that the craft, the Dragon, handled very well, but I want to see how it compares with the space shuttle. If one of you would address that, I would appreciate it.
Well, thank you, sir. It certainly has been a long endeavor for us and our namesake spacecraft. We're proud to have her on board the International Space Station after all that the teams around the country and across America have done to get us here today. As far as a comparison with the space shuttle, both Doug and I took a few minutes while we were accomplishing the approach and docking to, in our spare time, talk a little bit about it. We were surprised a little bit at how smooth things were off the pad. The space shuttle is a pretty rough ride.